Great, thank you, and welcome again to the WHA 2022. Our next speaker is Lisa Starr. She is one of our extremely experienced WHA advisors, world-renowned spa business consultant at Win Business Consulting, and host of a very successful podcast, Starcast, who interviews leaders, pioneers, and experts in the spa and wellness arena. Lisa's focus is on helping companies maximize their business revenue and optimize performance in both the front and back of house. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Erin. I was so pleased to be invited. I'm happy to contribute.
Thank you. Your insights are always so wonderful. And as we were just saying, you do talk to some incredible leaders and pioneers across the globe. So I think you have a really good hold on what's going on out there. So it would be brilliant if we could pick your brains for a few minutes.
Absolutely. You can pick whatever's in there.
Perhaps we could start off by if you could give us a bit of an insight into the day spa industry, as I know there are a lot of watchers today who are from that kind of industry, especially in the States.
Sure. So I'm happy to speak about that because that's actually my core niche in consulting is in day spas. You know, the hotel spas and the resort spas get all of the media because they have beautiful photographs and they're in great locations. But the fact is that most consumers are going to day spas on a regular basis. And I think globally, the number of spas, if you look at the number of spas, I think about 80% of them are day spas. So it's certainly the engine that drives our industry globally. But day spas have challenges. You know, I think it's almost a more difficult model, Erin, because, you know, when you have a spa in a resort, you have an engineering department, a maintenance department, a marketing department, an HR that helps you do those things. And in a day spa, you have to do all of those things yourself. You are the chief cook and bottle washer, as we say. So it takes a very broad skill set to do it successfully. A passion for doing it because, to be honest, the margins are not that great. You're not going to mostly make $1 million owning a day spa, but you can make a good living and you can really contribute to the wellness of a lot of people. And that is, I think, what drives many owners to continue.
Absolutely. That I think we've seen throughout all the talks that we're having is that those that get into halotherapy especially are really, really passionate about what they do. And it's often come as a personal story where they've had some wonderful results and they want to share this with others as well.
Well, you're absolutely right. You touch people in a literal and figurative way when they come to your spa. And when you can make people feel better or function better, and it's especially true in a day spa where you tend to see them more than once. You know, your clients come in every month, every 6 weeks, and they'll say, oh, I feel so much better. I'm using the halotherapy. It's really helping. It's helping my child with their respiratory issues. The treatments I'm getting, the massages are helping my posture, my function. I sit better at work. I do better at sports, all of it. I mean, we really do help people lead healthier, happier lives. And that's there's a nice payback in that.
Absolutely. So have you seen any kind of shift in the day spa industry as a result of the recent pandemic?
It's funny about that. You know, Erin, at the early days of the pandemic, and I mean right at the beginning, like March and April, the Global Wellness Institute was hosting a weekly call, a Zoom call, and we would get on because we had nothing else to do, right? And there would be 300 people on it from around the world, and we would all just say, what's happening where you are? And starting to say, do we need to find other jobs? Like, what's going to happen? You know, it was just such a strange time. So that was March, April. In the US, my first spa clients reopened, I'm going to say in late June, early July of 2020. They started reopening for massage, not necessarily for facials. And what was amazing was that they were booked immediately. Like, we were so worried about how clients would react to being alone in a room, shot with someone. And people were so desperate for human connection, even after that few months of being segregated, that they were flooding back. And of course, you had all the PPE and the, mask wearing and the mandates and all the craziness around managing that, having people wait in their cars and we'll come get you. And that went on for, better part of a year, but we saw no slack in demand to answer your question. In fact, it was stronger than ever. And most spas that I consult with and that I talk to are already surpassing their 2019 numbers. And 2019 was a good year. So the business is there. We have a tremendous demand for what we do because the pandemic sort of helped consumers realize that, oh, if I'm a little more healthy, if I take care of myself, I won't get so sick. And self-care becomes going to the spa and having massages, facials, even if it's having your nails done or something that just makes you feel personally rewarded. And of course, other therapies like halotherapy, light therapy, infrared saunas, things that also help your health. And so we've been extremely busy as we could be, I would say.
That's brilliant to hear. Now, there might be some listeners out there at the moment who maybe have day spas that have a couple of different options for people to use. But if they wanted to kind of diversify a little bit more and offer their clients more kind of things, what are you seeing people introducing at the moment to try and get in more clients and bring more regular clients back into their day spas?
Well, that's an excellent question. And if you don't mind, I'm going to back up a bit and talk about why we need that. So what I didn't say in my previous response about how busy we are, I said is we're as busy as we can be. We're as busy as we can be because we are limited by staff. The consumers came back a lot more quickly than the staff did, and in particular, massage. It was difficult in 2021. It's gotten a little better and midway through 2022, almost at the end now. Estheticians, not so difficult to find, but massage therapists are still a struggle. And if you look on the hiring sites of any major US city, you will see pages and pages of ads for massage therapists. And they're not coming back to work. Now, why? Who knows? I actually just did a podcast about this a few weeks ago with CG Funk, and we talked about, what's changed. But it's not something we see changing back rapidly. The schools do not have enrollment for massage. Many schools have closed. People have other ways to make a living now, so we have the challenge of having a spa situation with rooms to fill and equipment to use, but no one to man it. And you still have to pay your rent, right? So owners are saying, well, what else can we do? If we're not going to be able to fill our room with massage therapists, and let me also add that if you've got 3 treatment rooms for massage and you're open 6 days a week, you need probably 6-8 therapists to cover that because they work, 5-6 hours at a time. They can't work a 40-hour week. So there just aren't enough people. And as owners, we have to think about what else can we do, which leads me to the answer of your question, your real question. What are people offering? We're calling them low touch therapies. Like it's not no touch or touchless in the sense that they're greeted at your desk, they check in, someone ushers them back into a situation, gets them ready for it, but then doesn't administer it. And those would be halotherapy is a prime example. And that was already getting legs under it before the pandemic. Really good for respiratory and joint ailments, skin issues, and great for kids, of course. So having a halotherapy generator in a facial or even a whole halotherapy booth or room where people book time to sit and just take in the air without a labor cost. Of course, there's a setup cost, but you don't have that ongoing labor issue. We're seeing a lot of uptake on infrared sauna because there are so many options there now with booths that fit 1 or 2 people, and they're quite easy to operate. So lots of that. I'd say things like percussive therapy and vibration therapy, binaural sounds, sound healing, guided meditations, PEMF and photon mats that you lay on, excellent therapies, nice and warm and make the clients feel good. You can combine that with something like the Brain Tap, which is a headphone and software you use for guided meditation. So many things, many options that can be done in different configurations, not just in a treatment room.
Yeah, so a bit of therapy layering as well as bringing in these low touchless items.
For sure.
If anyone is listening and they want to find out more about infrared, Dr. Riley Duncan is also speaking during the symposium, so make sure you search out that talk as well. Just to jump back in there, you mentioned obviously halotherapy or salt therapy is good for children and families. Are you seeing more day spas offering treatments for families and children at all?
We're not seeing that yet, Erin, in the day spa setting. I think it's mostly a space constraint, but I do think it's a very interesting idea to have sort of communal treatments. And I probably have that in mind because I've just spent a few weeks in Europe, in Germany and Austria in particular, where going to the baths and the sauna is a family activity. And it's normal. And I went to the Gellert baths in Budapest, absolutely jammed. Families, kids, the mom and dad, the grandparents, everyone's soaking in the water. We don't have anything like that in the US. And that's not to say we don't have hot springs, we do, but the cultural prevalence is not on a slow day, hey, let's go to the spa and, hang out. And of course, in Germany, you have the sauna culture, which is very strong and also very family oriented. So I think we need to consider that in UK, US, other parts of Europe, how we can offer experiences, if you will, maybe not treatments, but something for families to do that's health oriented that they can do as a group. It's just, what will it be and how would you do it? Halotherapy is the obvious solution. You have a big room, everyone can be in there, but I'm sure there are other options that we haven't thought of yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we are starting to see it in the halotherapy. A lot of facilities are either opening up specific timings for families and children or having a dedicated children's room. But if children are the future, we should really be teaching them the way forward. And we all realize that wellness has to be a part of our lifestyle. So getting them into it early doors is only going to be, really positive for them. And I have 2 children and they frequent my salt room and it's hugely beneficial. And they even start to I call it self-medicate. If they start getting...
That's awesome.
If they start feeling a bit of a sore throat or feeling a bit blocked, they'll just take themselves off into the salt room, read a book or something. I love it. Like that.
Well done, you.
Thank you. But yeah, no, I mean, I do love the whole concept of being able to go and do it as a family. It's a really nice space to be able to go and do things as a family, and also it offers a really nice time for families to connect actually too, so without all the devices that we're kind of forced upon us at the moment, to go into some kind of spa or room or whatever where you have to leave those behind, you actually get to have good conversations or just a nice time together. So I'd be really interested to see how family health and wellness could be moved forward into these day spas with a variety of different options, for sure.
Well, that's a good point that you make. Think about when you're in a restaurant and you see a family at the table, parents, kids. How often are they all on devices? They're sitting at a table together, but they're not interacting necessarily. They're looking at their devices. We've become so addicted to that as a society. And it is, there's a lot on there. I mean, whether you're playing a game or watching the World Cup scores or whatever you're doing, but we have to remember to put them down and, interact with others. I think that's really important. I find myself on public transit trying very much not to look at my device and just sort of be there with the other people and observe. Meanwhile, they're all looking at their devices. They're not interacting with me, but I'm an N of one, but I'm trying to say, just make an effort to be aware about that.
Absolutely. I do love a bit of people watching. I love an airport.
Of course.
So have you got any top tips for, say, smaller salons looking to add additional services? Anything that you could see that would give them a really good, quick return on investment, and things that are really simple to put in initially, perhaps?
Well, a lot of consulting work in the last 18 months in particular has been on menu engineering, because as we come out of the pandemic, it's really time to assess what you're offering and what your price points are. Many spas have raised their prices once, twice, 3 times since the pandemic. We were all if you went to a city and you looked at all the spas in the core of the city, they all charged pretty much the same amount and had basically the same menu. They think it's different, but it's X massage, X facial, about the same price. And we need to be a lot more strategic about what we do. So incremental price increases, but I'm really big on add-ons or ways that your therapy staff can grow their average ticket through a focused sales opportunity without being pushy, right? Does the client need a particular serum or mask, or can we add hot stones or aromatherapy to a massage or body treatment? Is there a halotherapy add-on? Do you have that portable generator? You could make a facial or a massage into a halotherapy treatment as well. So you need to think about, what are you staffing? What are your utilization rates of those places, those rooms or cabins or tables? And then how can you sort of leverage up the price that you're getting per hour for that space by having add-ons and other services? So things like I mentioned earlier, like perhaps there's a sound therapy piece where you put on headphones during a facial. It's difficult to work around that, I grant you, but maybe in a massage as well. So the client gets another layer, right? Perhaps you do the treatment on a PEMF mat and you charge a little bit extra for that, but they get an extra layer of treatment. So I'd think about ways you can introduce low touch or more energy-based, LED, say, therapies into what you're already doing. Moderate training, none of it is that complicated that you need to have a trainer come in for your staff. It's all fairly easy to operate and intuitive. And you can start by having your staff practice on each other, till they're good at it, and then incorporating it into your menu.
Brilliant. I think that probably leads quite nicely onto retail. Are you seeing any top things out there for retail? Because that's a really easy way that people or facilities can make some additional revenue, again, without more staff.
Well, we're certainly retail focused in properties, in bricks and mortar. And it's funny when you read all the articles when the internet started that said, oh, this is the end of retail, we're not going to sell anything. And we're seeing huge resurgence in that. I think e-commerce still makes up only maybe 15% of the commerce that's done. So we have this idea that everything is done online, but it's not. And I don't know about you, but I've driven by a few of our local malls lately and their parking lots are packed. Now, it is holiday and gift-giving season, but again, people are anxious for experiences. We have to make it worth their while to come out and go into the store. And so I think a lot can be learned by going to big retailers and seeing what are they doing, right? Go into your Sephora's, your Ultas, the large stores that sell beauty. I was in Selfridges in London a month ago on the main floor in the back, where it's amazing what they're doing back there with, a wig bar, a lash bar, a brow bar, get your nails done. There's a henna artist, and they're packed. And on an afternoon and the weekday, like all those clients that we think we own are over in this department store having treatments because they can walk up and do it. So there's really no limit to what we can do, but retail, as you say, certainly drives revenue. It drives repeat business. It increases average ticket. It increases loyalty. It's a marketing tool. That guest sees that product in their bathroom every day and they think of you. So we have to make sure we have the right products priced correctly. We've trained the staff to sell and we've given them the tools to do so, because retail is certainly a robust way to grow your revenue.
Absolutely. So in order to get people to keep coming back to us, to the day spas, you've obviously just mentioned the retail and reminding them that you're there by having these retail products in their bathroom. What are the key ways that we can keep people coming back as well as the retail side?
Well, I have to chuckle, but the obvious one that I see missed so often is to ask them. I mean, I do mystery shopping quite a bit, and I'm shocked at how many times I go to a spa, I have a treatment, they say, how was it? I say, fine. And they say, okay, it'll be however much, bye-bye. And so, like, tell me to come back, and say most people come back in 4 weeks. And so a lot of the training I do in consulting is around getting the therapy staff, who should be the drivers of that, right, Erin? I mean, they're the ones that sees the client in the treatment room, that prescribe the therapy, that should get the client on a therapy plan, like not looking at the visit like it's this one visit, right? This is the first of many. Obviously, you want your muscles to feel better or your skin to look better. And so we'll get on a program and that will look like this. And the next time I see you in 4 weeks should be for a different service. Here it is on the card. And when the client goes to the front to check out, part 2 is the front desk person saying, when did Tammy say she'd like to see you for your next visit? So it's a 2-part deal, right? The therapist advising and giving very specific information to the guest, and the front desk following up with the rebooking. Both sides have to do it, right? If the front desk person says, when did Tammy say she'd like to see you? And Tammy didn't say that, it looks bad for Tammy. So everybody has to play their part, but you can so improve your pre-booking and your utilization just by telling the guests you'd like to see them again. Now, I understand people today will say, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have my calendar with me, okay. But if you don't ask, they're definitely not going to rebook. So that would be my number one advice. Simple things like the prescription form with the name of the technician. The technician introduces themselves at the start of the treatment. Hi, I'm Alice. And they think the client remembers that 90 minutes later when they're checking out and they've had a shower. They don't always. Wear a name tag. People remember your name that way, part of your uniform. So handing out prescription forms, cards, the rebooking, all of that really helps to increase client retention.
No, that's a really good tip. And I know when I go to the hairdresser, they always so let's book you in for your next one in so many weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We need to do the same thing.
Exactly. And if you're already offering halotherapy as part of your business, you will know that halotherapy is one of those things that people need to commit to. It's a bit like, I kind of refer it to as a bit like a diet or getting fit, that you need to do it regularly. So it's very easy to kind of start booking them in quite regularly, and that will also increase them coming back to you for potentially other things as well. But with halotherapy 2 or 3 times a week to start with, and if you can then add on one of these other therapies or treatments as well, you're going to really help to start boosting that revenue.
No, that's really good advice. I mean, again, you have to speak in terms of programs and treatment courses. It's not a one-shot deal and we cure you. We're a place where you can come and have a regular therapy treatment. And as you said, when they come in, perhaps they'll get something else. I mean, that's how loss leaders work at the supermarket, right? They have a rack of things they're not making money on, but they drew you in and they hope that you buy something else while you're there. Again, we need to adopt some of the same marketing policies that we see in larger businesses.
And I also think with day spas as well, you're creating relationship with your clients, because they're the ones that tend to live local to you. They're the ones that are going to keep coming back because they're getting a good and a personable service. So you really do need to form that relationship, and using your email marketing as well, I think is a really good strength, to just remind them, send out tips as well. Don't always go out there selling things, but send out tips about what they can be doing in between your treatments to kind of best help their health or make it last longer and things like that.
Oh, well said. Marketing, we could have hours just on marketing. And, we do need to do email marketing, but people are getting so many emails. And to your point, if it's just sales all the time, I just delete. But if you're sending advice that's useful, you'll find that people will open it and read it. I think that we're just getting too many. I mean, I don't think you need to be emailing your clients multiple times per week. That just becomes white noise. But if you send out a once monthly newsletter and perhaps it has an offer in it or a promotion that I'd worth looking for, maybe a tip, a community event that you're having. Sometimes I see recipes for like some soup, the winter's coming, here's a nice healthy soup you can make. So those are things that drive engagement. Conversely, I'm seeing some shift back to direct mail marketing. which, is something we thought was put to bed years ago. But because of the overabundance of email that we get, a little simple card, like a larger than a postcard, color, 2 sides, nothing in an envelope, with an offer, a catchy photo, is actually starting to drive results more than it did for quite a long time. So we have texting, we've got Instagram. I mean, there's so many ways to try to get people's attention, and you've got to try them all. But of course, you have to track and see where you're getting your results.
Absolutely. That's a good tip, actually. I like that one. I always
Good.
check my mail, like physical mail. But
right.
You're right. I delete on the email if it doesn't look like it's going to be useful. As we when I introduced you, I mentioned that you do a podcast, and I have listened to your podcast, and it's extremely fascinating and interesting with some of the speakers that you have.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have you had any top speakers that you have found extremely interesting, and how can people sign on and listen to your podcast?
Well, thank you for that. My podcast can be found at starcastpodcast.com, STARR cast podcast. That will take you to a page on my website, and there are links to all of the platforms. It's found on Spotify and Apple Music and iHeartMusic, and all the major platforms, Pandora. So it's been going for about 2.5 years. I started it in the pandemic, honestly, Erin, because we needed people to work in wellness. And I knew so many people with interesting journeys into wellness who didn't grow up thinking they would work in wellness, but yet they were. And, when people come to work in wellness, they rarely leave. It's very fulfilling. So I started interviewing people about their personal journey of, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up, and how did you end up there? And it has since morphed into more broad wellness topics. I think one that's very relevant here, besides the one I mentioned with CG Funk, which was just about, 2-3 weeks ago, earlier this year, maybe last year, I did one on touchless technologies. And I had 2 spa operators on, one from a large resort spa in Florida and one from a day medical spa in Texas. And they talked about how they were incorporating low touch therapies into their daily routines. And I think that would be very interesting and relevant for your audience. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, you're right, though. I came into wellness. I'm a civil engineer, but here I am.
Here you are, right? And that was not in your plan. It's just really funny to me. But we like to help people, and we're very positive. And we're like a nice, pleasant tribe where you make people feel good. And who doesn't enjoy that?
Absolutely. Well, I think that is a perfect place for us to wrap up today. I know you are super busy. You're all over the place. I see you flitting around across the countries. But it's wonderful to catch up with you, Lisa. And we really do appreciate all your insights. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate you having me. I think it's a great idea what you're doing for halotherapy and for wellness in general. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.